On this Saturday night, Israel's impending assault. Nowhere to run as the IDF plans a ground offensive in Rafah. And why an aid group is claiming the death of a 6-year-old Palestinian girl was deliberate. Global heat.
Today is nowhere near the coldest day of the year.
Europe's leading scientists say world temperatures surpass the warming limit for a full year. Roaring into the year of the dragon, how communities across Canada are celebrating Lunar New Year. Changing the culture, Hockey Canada's CEO on confronting challenges in the sport. Swift's super journey.
Go, go, Travis!
The pop star soars across oceans to cheer on Travis Kelce in Sunday's Super Bowl showdown.
Global National with Farah Nasser. Reporting tonight, Neetu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Palestinians seeking refuge in Rafah tonight are bracing for an imminent all-out Israeli assault in what was deemed Gaza's last remaining safe zone. According to reports out of Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has given his military a new deadline to erase the last standing Hamas stronghold in Rafah. During a war cabinet meeting Friday, Netanyahu reportedly told Israel's defense force that it has exactly 1 month to destroy 4 remaining Hamas battalions holed up in Rafah. Netanyahu has already directed his military to devise a plan to evacuate those sheltering in the overcrowded southern border city. It's now home to an estimated 1.4 million people, many who fled bombardments and bloodshed in other parts of Gaza. Tonight, there are growing fears an offensive will lead to more mass loss of civilian life. The U.S. said this week it would not support an offensive in Rafah, that it would be a disaster. And today, the European Union said an offensive in Rafah will have catastrophic consequences. David Akin has our top story tonight and a warning some of you may find the images in our coverage disturbing.
This car was destroyed and its 3 occupants killed after Israeli military strikes overnight in Rafah, the southernmost point in Gaza on the border with Egypt. Elsewhere in the city, dozens were killed, according to Western media organizations and Palestinian authorities, when Israeli warplanes struck these homes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Friday he believes hundreds of Hamas fighters are in Rafah and he wants them destroyed. But before launching that assault, he has ordered the Israeli military to evacuate the civilians. But there is nowhere else to go in Gaza that is not subject to Israeli bombardment.
And this is very dangerous if there will be a military operation in Rafah. This will exacerbate and will increase the suffering of the already existing dire humanitarian conditions there.
Diplomats from Canada, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt all expressed alarm about Netanyahu's plans. In the meantime, medicine and food are increasingly in short supply.
There is a catastrophic level of hunger and starvation and the spread of diseases and lack of clear water.
In the north of Gaza, Israeli military took journalists on a tour of a vast tunnel system underneath the headquarters of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, also known as UNRWA.
This place is one of the Hamas's intelligence units, where they command most of the combat from here, but from the underground.
Some of UNRWA's employees were accused of assisting Hamas during the October attacks on Israel, which prompted Canada, the U.S., and other donors to suspend funding for the agency. Israeli military said the tunnel complex is new evidence of how Hamas exploited the UN relief agency. UNRWA, for its part, said it had vacated the headquarters 5 days after the war began and was unable to confirm or otherwise comment on the tunnel network. David Akin, Global News, Ottawa.
Some grave accusations tonight from the Palestine Red Crescent Society. It says a 6-year-old Palestinian girl missing for 12 days has been found dead, along with her relatives and 2 medics sent to look for them. The aid group claims on January 29th, 6-year-old Hind Rajab was traveling in this car with her aunt, uncle, and 3 cousins, trying to flee to the west of Gaza City when their vehicle appears to have come under attack from Israeli forces. The 6-year-old phoned rescuers begging to be saved. Her call suggests she was the only one alive in the car, but the phone line cut out amid the sound of gunfire. Today, in a tweet, the Palestine Red Crescent Society accused Israel of deliberately targeting its ambulance sent to rescue the young girl. Israel says it's looking into the allegations. In Ukraine, at least 7 people, including 3 children, were killed in a Russian drone attack that sparked several fires in the northeastern city of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. The attack hit an oil depot, spraying nearby homes with burning fuel. At least 10 drones were fired at the region. 8 were shot down. On the heels of the world's hottest year in recorded history, 2024 is already shaping up to be even warmer. According to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, last month marked the hottest January on record, with an average surface air temperature of just over 13 degrees. It was also the first 12-month period where temperatures were more than 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial average, threatening efforts to limit global warming. The impacts of rising temperatures are being felt right across Canada. As Megan Cobb reports, it's leaving some concerned about what it could mean for the year ahead.
It's a blow to 240 athletes looking forward to competing on one of British Columbia's biggest stages. The alpine skiing and snowboarding events at the BC Winter Games have been cancelled because the snowpack just isn't there.
We've had to certainly adapt sports over the years for different reasons with the weather or the community, but to actually have 3 withdrawals is really unfortunate.
Troll Mountain Resort isn't the only bare ski hill in the province. Vancouver's Mount Seymour doesn't have any runs open, and Cypress Mountain is relying on snow guns to open limited terrain. BC's snowpack is about 40% below average for this time of year.
Typically, we will have 1 or 2 regions that are below normal, but never to the point where every region is below normal, essentially.
The lack of snow and mild temperatures are impacting much of the country. Toronto broke an 86-year-old weather record Friday, reaching 14.5 degrees. And with mild temperatures again on Saturday, the annual coldest day of the year bike ride had more bare legs than usual for mid-February.
Today is nowhere near the coldest day of the year.
And while the weather is nice for cyclists, it's bad for drought conditions. The Alberta government is already negotiating water sharing agreements with municipalities in anticipation of an extremely dry summer.
But we know we have this shared resource, and it's making sure that everyone gets some and nobody gets none.
Drought conditions have intensified this winter across the prairies and northern Alberta and BC into the Northwest Territories, where some wildfires continue to burn after a particularly bad 2023.
We left the fall with very high to extreme fire danger, and we're probably going to be seeing that again in the spring.
There are still 2 to 3 months left in the snow accumulation season, but El Niño weather patterns are expected to continue, shifting the focus to what will hopefully be a wet spring. Megan Cobb, Global News, Calgary.
In the U.S., despite a slew of controversies and criminal charges, Donald Trump is getting closer to securing the Republican presidential nomination.
Your Second Amendment will always be safe with me as your president. When I'm back in the Oval Office, no one will lay a finger on your firearms.
That was Trump appealing to his base at a National Rifle Association event last night, vowing to protect gun owners if he's reelected. We'll likely see another showdown between Trump and President Joe Biden in November, a race that will also impact Ottawa's relationship with Washington. Our Eric Sorensen spoke with Canada's ambassador to the U.S. on how she's navigating the political landscape in what's shaping up to be a high-stakes election year. He joins us now from Ottawa. Eric?
Me too. The Prime Minister is renewing Team Canada diplomacy with the United States. He's assigned 2 cabinet ministers alongside Canada's ambassador to Washington to ensure business and all levels of government maintain a strong, nimble relationship. On the West Bloc, Ambassador Kirsten Hillman says in this election year, Democrats and Republicans share many priorities and recently struck a bipartisan committee on Canada.
It's House and Senate, Republican and Democrat, and it is a committee that is focusing on deepening and strengthening the relationship with Canada, both from an economic and a security perspective. Ultimately, Americans, regardless of the stripes, are deeply concerned about ensuring resilience in their country. Prime ministers have typically steered clear of showing a preference in a presidential election year. They have to work with whomever wins.
Unlike these MAGA conservatives.
But Justin Trudeau has recently made disparaging comparisons between Donald Trump's so-called MAGA politics and opposition leader Pierre Poilievre.
Conservative leader doesn't want to talk about his failed Republican-style plan.
Ambassador Hillman says no Trump official has raised the matter with her, noting that Canada's diplomacy runs into policy differences with both parties.
I would say this. The people in the United States who support President Trump support his policies. And some of those policies work well in the Canada-U.S. relationship. Some of them don't. The same thing is true of President Biden.
The stakes are high in this U.S. election year, says Ambassador Hillman, because the world is complicated and it's important that Canada's alliances remain strong, especially with our most important trading partner. Nitu?
Eric Sorensen in Ottawa. Thanks, Eric. Ringing in the Year of the Dragon. Coming up, a look at the festivities and all that food in communities across Canada. Chinese culture and festivities are welcoming the Year of the Wood Dragon as communities across Canada celebrate the Lunar New Year this weekend. Dragons are dazzling crowds from Montreal's Chinatown to Calgary's Public Library and beyond. Canada's largest city is no exception, of course, with plenty of celebrations across Toronto as well. Amar Khan has more on the festivities happening there.
Singing Chinese ballads, culturally inspired dances. Across Toronto's Chinatown, scores of people taking in the culture and community. The streets packed, celebrating the start of the lunar calendar. The Bissell family traveling across the border to take part in the festivities.
We live in Buffalo, so we don't have a Chinatown. I think closest Chinatown is here. So I said, oh, let's go here, experience Chinese New Year. This is the biggest holiday for us.
The family, with their young one in tow, dressed for the occasion.
Laying Judah to play and, be able to celebrate his culture is pretty fun.
The Lunar New Year is a celebration amongst loved ones.
Usually it's greeting with your family, seeing the sunrise with your family, getting a good luck, good fortune mostly, and then we're just creating all the good energy for the year. 2024, the Year of the Wood Dragon, with a lot of miniature dragons on display and the color red everywhere.
Red paper meaning represent possible happiness celebration.
Peter Lee, a Chinese calligrapher, is spending his day writing messages for a prosperous future.
Share the happiness, the positive thinking, and greeting and blessing to everyone.
From the dancing, the singing, the abundance of food, or calligraphy, Lee stresses that Lunar New Year is a celebration for the community and a chance to spread the wealth.
Transition the Chinese culture to the new generation. Not only that, but we want to let other culture to learn about the Chinese culture because Canada is a multicultural country.
Amar Khan, Global News, Toronto.
Ahead, Hockey Canada's CEO on how it's confronting toxic culture challenges. The culture of Canada's game was under the microscope this week as 5 current and former NHL players made their first court appearance charged with sexual assault. None of the allegations have been proven in court. They all played for Canada's national junior team in 2018. 4 years later, Hockey Canada admitted to paying out their accuser in a civil case. And after that news surfaced, the organization has been undergoing major changes, among them bringing in a new president and CEO, Katherine Henderson. And Katherine, thanks very much for doing this and being here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
So you have been on the job for just over 5 months now. What are the most important changes you feel have been undertaken to improve the culture within Hockey Canada?
Okay, well, I will give some credit to Hugh Fraser and the transition board that began before me. They were charged with hiring a CEO and making sure that the governance model around Hockey Canada has been significantly improved, and I think we have met sort of the quality standards that's laid out by Mr. Justice Cromwell. So a lot of that has happened. There has been an extensive investment in training. We are a signatory of the Office of the Sport Integrity Commissioner. So we are providing both independent review of places and a space where people can come with their complaints and receive remedy for that, as well as we are very compliant with the Universal Code of Conduct to prevent maltreatment in sport.
So having said all of that, do you think families and the public should have confidence that Hockey Canada is providing a safe and inclusive space for everyone?
Well, I want to explain how the hockey system works. We're a national sport organization. We don't actually run our own hockey programs outside of our national teams. So we've got to be really clear there. But we do extensive work with our member organizations, who are the provincial and territory sport organizations, who then work with their members. Those would be your local hockey associations. And through them, we have a great deal of alignment about what we define as good, healthy, proper behavior. We have written guidelines, and we have written consequences to those for those people who choose not to behave in a way that we feel is appropriate and healthy. But we need to work within our hockey system and through our hockey system, right down to the people that are delivering hockey to 6-year-olds.
And just delving a little more deeper and getting more specific about Hockey Canada's actions, are you confident that this so-called slush fund used to pay settlements to accusers over the years will never happen again, and why?
Yeah, well, I think the Transition Board and our Finance and Audit Committee did a tremendous job at redefining policy around those funds. There's tremendous oversight to them. We know exactly where the funds, where the money's coming from and where it's going out. So I'm very confident that we've got the right structure in place and we've got the right oversight in place to make sure that happens.
What is being done to educate and train players who advance to higher levels of the program? So situations like what's being investigated in London, Ontario, are no longer part of the reality or in the scope of what could be believed to be tolerated?
Yeah. So, I will say that we have a very extensive and very lengthy and very thorough education program. We have training on in all kinds of areas about, discrimination, harassment, abuse, consent, that we make sure that all of the hockey players who are coming from other organizations into a Hockey Canada environment, which tends to be our national teams, are thoroughly trained, and that we have people around them supporting and teaching and monitoring and making sure that those policies are being followed. I do think that we've done a very good job of making sure that people are quite aware of what those behaviors are. I think we can probably continue to look to improve upon that to make sure that actual behavior change is coming out of those programs. And that's probably the impact piece that we haven't been able to measure as yet, but it is certainly an intent, and it's certainly a place that we are going to be investing in heavily over the next little while.
And Katherine, can you clarify why all members of the 2018 junior team, including those not accused, are being prohibited from representing the country internationally?
Yeah, well, we have our own adjudicated process, which explores, which explores sort of the entirety of the incident. And a criminal investigation is a little bit different from that. So until our own process is completed, we're not going to make decisions on whether those people that were on the 2018 can come back and either play, coach, or volunteer for any of our programs.
That is Hockey Canada President and CEO Katherine Henderson. Katherine, thank you again.
Thank you.
Next, the ultimate touchdown, Taylor Swift's epic journey from Japan to the Super Bowl.
It's me, I'm here.
Swifties gathered outside Tokyo's international airport last night to try to catch a glimpse of Taylor Swift as the singer jets back from Japan just in time for Super Bowl Sunday. The world's biggest pop star is making the long journey to Las Vegas to see her boyfriend, Kansas City Chiefs star Travis Kelce, take on the San Francisco 49ers. Last year, a record-breaking 115 million viewers tuned in for the big game. And as Mike Drolet tells us, there's hope the hype around Swift and the Super Bowl will give those numbers an even bigger boost.
When they say everything is bigger in Las Vegas, they clearly hadn't considered the Super Bowl or its outrageous fans.
We are the champions, baby.
It's so big, advertisers are spending $7 million on a 30-second ad. And it's considered a deal.
Remember when you used to be a pepper lady?
Wasn't it the Cinnamon Sisters?
Basil babes?
If it all seems bigger this year, it is, with even the sports betting gurus stunned that wagers on the game will exceed $23 billion.
Which really is a demented number. Think about how gigantic that pill is to swallow. $23 billion bet on one football game.
But it's not all on the football game, is it? There's the traditional bets, who wins the game, final score, and the Super Bowl bets, length of the anthem, the color of the Gatorade. Off the field is where it gets interesting. Will NFL player Jason Kelce, who famously went shirtless in freezing Buffalo, do it again? That betting line suggests it's a guarantee. And of course, there's bets related to Taylor Swift. Will the Chiefs' Travis Kelce propose? Or even better, will Tay-Tay announce she's pregnant? Both are serious long shots.
Go, go, Travis!
Want a sure bet? Swift will be there, despite travel hell. After last weekend's Grammy win, she has 4 shows in Tokyo, the last finishing Saturday night. But with the time zone in her favor, she'll make it to Sin City.
She's unbelievable. She's rewriting the history books herself.
At some point, they'll play the game, sandwiched around a halftime show featuring Usher. But even the players know the Super Bowl isn't about them. Until kickoff, at least. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is the Fiskard Lighthouse in Colwood, British Columbia. Thanks so much for watching and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.